The Battle of Passchendaele, fought from July to November 1917, stands as a symbol of the First World War's tragic waste. Near Ypres, Belgium, the British Empire's forces faced the German Empire, aiming to capture a ridge crowned by the ruins of Passchendaele. For over 3 months, soldiers endured unimaginable conditions, fighting in a swamp of mud and shell craters. The battlefield was a nightmare landscape where soldiers drowned in mud and casualties were staggering. Hundreds of thousands were killed or wounded for a mere few miles of ground. The battle's story is not just about military strategy, but the human spirit pushed to its limits. In 1917, with Russia collapsing and the French army recovering from mutinies, the British felt immense pressure to keep fighting. Passchendaele was meant to be a great victory, but became a grim reminder of military ambition, ignoring reality. The battle began in the summer of 1917, a time of great uncertainty in the war. The British needed to show strength to their German enemies and allies. Instead, Passchendaele became synonymous with senseless slaughter. It highlights the essence of the Western Front's stalemate and the horrors of industrial warfare. Today, we look back with awe and sadness at this event. Passchendaele remains a powerful symbol of courage and flawed leadership. Field Marshal Haig, commander of the British Expeditionary Force, envisioned a breakthrough at Ypres to win the war. His goal was to capture the Belgian coast, destroying German submarine bases. Haig believed the German army was on the verge of collapse, needing just one more push. The offensive began with a massive artillery bombardment, the heaviest the world had seen. Millions of shells were to obliterate German defenses, paving the way for infantry. However, not everyone agreed with Haig's plan. Prime Minister David Lloyd George doubted the wisdom of attacking in marshy ground, fearing massive casualties. Despite his doubts, Lloyd George couldn't overrule Haig. Haig's persistence convinced the War Cabinet of his plan's soundness. The strategic situation in 1917 added urgency, with the French army in crisis and the Russian Revolution looming. Haig felt it was a race against time to strike before Germany could reinforce the Western Front. The British needed to lead and keep pressure on the Germans. Haig's decision would have devastating consequences. The battle began on July 31st, 1917, with the heaviest rains in 30 years. The artillery bombardment worsened conditions, destroying drainage systems and turning the battlefield into a swamp. Soldiers faced a sea of mud, water-filled craters and relentless rain. The mud clogged rifles, ruined food and made movement a nightmare. Duckboards provided narrow, slippery paths, often targeted by German shells. Falling off could mean drowning in the mud, weighed down by heavy equipment. The battlefield was littered with bodies, a gruesome reminder of the fate awaiting many. The smell of mud, poison gas and decay was overpowering. Soldiers suffered from shell shock, now known as PTSD, driven to the breaking point. Living conditions were appalling, with soldiers constantly wet, cold and hungry. Sickness was rampant, with trench foot leading to gangrene and amputation. Surviving each day was a victory in itself. The psychological toll was immense, with soldiers huddled in waterlogged trenches. Hot food rarely reached the front lines and sleep was almost impossible. The mud and misery of Flanders became a living nightmare for those who fought there. The Battle of Passchendaele saw modern industrial armies clash with new weapons and tactics. The British relied on artillery, using a creeping barrage to pin down German defenders. Timing was crucial. Moving too slowly or quickly could be deadly. The Germans used defense in depth, with zones of defense and concrete pillboxes. These bunkers were difficult to destroy and a major obstacle for the Allies. Poison gas, like mustard gas, added another layer of terror. It caused horrific injuries and forced soldiers to wear gas masks for hours. New infantry tactics emerged, with soldiers moving in small, flexible groups. They used the landscape for cover, employing fire and movement tactics. The battle was a deadly game of cat and mouse with little protection. Both sides adapted to the harsh realities of trench warfare. The psychological fear of gas attacks added to the battlefield's horror. The tactics used at Passchendaele reflected the brutal nature of the conflict. The battle was a clash of innovation and desperation in a landscape offering no mercy. The human cost of Passchendaele was immense, with the British Empire suffering 325,000 casualties. The German army lost around 260,000 men, with the Allies advancing only 5 miles. Critics label the battle a tragic waste, pointing to leadership failures, especially Haig's. He continued the offensive despite the horrific conditions and reports from commanders. Some historians argue it was a necessary part of a wider war of attrition. The goal was to grind down the German army, wearing out their best troops. The battle weakened the German army but nearly broke the British spirit. The enormous losses left a deep scar on the British Empire's nations. Passchendaele remains a symbol of the futility and horror of war. By October 1917, the battle had raged for nearly 3 months. Exhausted British, Australian and New Zealand troops turned to the Canadian Corps. Known for their effectiveness, the Canadians were tasked with capturing Passchendaele. General Arthur Currie predicted heavy casualties and argued against the attack. Overruled by Haig, Currie insisted on meticulous planning and preparation. The Canadian attack began on October 26th, advancing slowly through mud and pillboxes. The fighting was brutal, with hand-to-hand combat and relentless mud. On November 6th, Canadian soldiers entered the ruins of Passchendaele. The battle was officially over, with Currie's prediction tragically accurate. The Canadian Corps suffered 15,654 casualties, achieving their objective at a terrible price. The capture of Passchendaele was a costly victory, with lives lost for a symbolic gain. The battle's legacy is one of bravery and sacrifice in the face of impossible odds. Passchendaele remains a testament to the human cost of war. Passchendaele's legacy is complex and sorrowful. Initially celebrated as a victory, stories of soldiers' suffering revealed a different picture of unimaginable horror. The battle became a symbol of the senseless futility of the First World War. It highlights the gap between generals' plans and soldiers' reality. Passchendaele represents the worst aspects of the Western Front. The battle left a deep scar on the collective memory of the British Empire. Cemeteries around Ypres stand as testaments to the scale of loss. The memory fueled anti-war sentiment in the 1920s and 1930s. Passchendaele teaches a vital lesson about the human cost of conflict. It reminds us to question leaders' strategies and remember those who pay the price. The battle is a story of bravery and endurance, but also a cautionary tale. We remember Passchendaele for the lives lost, a warning against the madness of war.